Enough, both of you, Gary shouted at us. What the hell happened when I left? You both are making a scene in front of a child. None of you will take her to school. I will do that myself. With those words, he took his car keys and led his daughter out of the house. I was furious and went back to arranging his bags. I was tired of all this drama. If Ruth was as responsible as I thought she was, she would have just moved out in peace. With what Ruth did, I don't expect anything worthy from her. Denise, why are you hurting me? Jerry's voice startled me. How long have you been there? 5 minutes, he replied, and sat close to me. My love, you know, I love you very much. I won't trade you for anything in the world, but I don't understand what is going on right now. Don't you think you are taking this too far? I love my sister. She is the only family I have. I felt for him, but I stood my ground. Sweetheart, you know I love you. Can you remember how we met? It was so supernatural that some folks considered us superstitious whenever we narrated our story to them. Where did my sister go wrong? He asked. Seeing that he was unable to convince me, he left with a sadness that was deeper than the ocean. Nothing in my home remained the same. Gary became cold towards me. He told me that I deceived him by being nice at the beginning of our relationship, and only to change after marriage, I guess Peter advised him. For he finally rented another apartment for Ruth, and she moved out of our home. Christmas came. Everywhere but my home was full of merriment. Amidst this crisis, Sonia was my only friend, and that made the bond between us stronger. I cried and prayed every night with my condition. All the sexual urges I had, which were frequent, were satisfied with tears. On the 23rd of December, Gary dropped money on the bed with a note, which was our new line of communication. I couldn't tell my friends and parents what I was going through. It was too early for me to be having trouble in my marriage. I tried to stay strong for my baby. I managed to go to the market to get a few things for Christmas since it was difficult to see Gary at home these days. On Christmas Day, I was surprised to see Gary at home. I wrapped my Christmas gifts for everyone, including Ruth. With the help of Sonia, I was able to prepare fried rice and grilled chicken just the way he likes it. I had to seize this opportunity to please him and massage his bruised ego. I rushed to set the table. I was jittery and nervous as I got into the room. Sweetheart, please come and... Before I could complete my statement, I felt this sharp pain on my stomach and exclaimed, Are you okay? He asked me, trying to hide the concern in his face. I tried to reply to him when I felt a deeper pain. Please, Gary, take me to the hospital. I think the baby is on its way. One would expect the arrival of Gary Jr. to bring solace to our home. Unfortunately, things remained the same. Gary and I appeared as the happy couple in front of our guests and families during the naming ceremony of our son. We all rocked the same native attire. Ruth was there as well. I watched her like a hawk throughout the event. I didn't want her to bring her evil ways to my son's party. She tried to compete with me for Jerry's attention. I ignored them both. I maintained my poise and focused on my children. As I sat, I couldn't help but notice how effortlessly Gary related with our guests. He looked so handsome. At that moment, I realized it's been 3 months since he made love to me. I yearned for his touch and kisses, but he was still mad at me. I scolded myself within. How can I love and desire someone who has been hurting me? Probably he was getting sex outside, I thought to myself. Why wouldn't he even make advances at me? My friend's voice brought me back to reality. My friend, see the way you are lusting over your hubby. This love is strong. While she was saying that, Gary came towards us and heard her. I was so embarrassed, and he gave me this seductive look for the first time since this drama started. Then he replied, if she doesn't lust over me, who else will? For an only child, attention was my weakness, and Gary knew this, and capitalized on it. After the ceremony, I was expectant that things would get better, but Gary remained adamant. He would come home from work and dote on the baby. He would do his daddy's duties and go back to the office, like he claimed, and return late in the night. He would ignore me. When I couldn't take it any longer, I summoned courage and confronted him one night. As usual on Friday night, he came home around 12 a.m. He was startled to find me still awake. "Gary, we need to talk." "Denise, I am tired right now and I can't talk." "Why are you doing this to me?" I asked, almost in tears. "What are you talking about?" he asked, feigning ignorance. "Don't treat me like I am stupid. You know what I am talking about. I am sorry I made you send Ruth away, but she is happy with her life. You don't have to let it tear us apart. I miss the way things used to be." "Denise, I don't think you miss it." "Gary, why is it so difficult to forgive me? You wouldn't even touch me. I guess someone is wetting your bed. Are you done talking? If you don't mind, I would like to go upstairs and take a shower." I went down on my knees and held his legs, pleading, "Please, Gary, forgive me." "Are you ready to tell me what happened between the both of you?" "Nothing happened," I quickly replied. "There you go again, lying to me." "You don't want peace then, my dear sweet wife," he said, and left me on my knees. I cried and cried until there were no tears left to shed. I told myself from that moment that two can play that game. I went about my activities like Gary didn't exist. He would be a gentleman and take the baby and I to the clinic on his hospital visits. In 2 months, I returned to my beautiful self and I resumed work. I was able to get a nice daycare for my baby. The best part of it was that I started receiving my full salary instead of the half payment that I received during the maternity leave. I spoiled myself and Sonia with nice clothes. I also changed my lingerie and nightwear. On Friday night, after tucking Sonia and our baby to bed, I noticed my husband was studying in his home office. He started coming home earlier, ever since I resumed work. Although I pretended to be nonchalant, I wanted my husband back. The woman in me swung into action. I had my shower and changed into the sexiest nightwear I had. It enhanced my curves. I went into his office to shut the windows. After that, I arranged the books on the shelf. Gary swayed from side to side on his chair. When he thought I wasn't looking, his eyes lingered on my hips and rested on my boobs. I knew I was tormenting him, and I couldn't help but manage a smile. "Denise, I guess you had a busy day at work today. Don't worry, I will arrange the books," he finally said in a husky voice. "I don't mind doing it," I replied. When he couldn't bear it anymore, he left the study room. I knew I had conquered when, for the first time after 5 months, Gary finally slept on our matrimonial bed. Although he didn't touch me, I finally saw rays of hope. The next Saturday morning, I cleaned the house and made food. I called Raymond, my colleague, who Gary had warned me against simply because he doesn't like the way he stares at me, to come pick me up. I wore shorts and a V-neck t-shirt with my sandals. I dressed Sonia in a matching outfit. We had plans to go to the beach, and I had arrangements with Raymond to come pick us up from home. Raymond was outside waiting for us and called me to inform me, unknown to me, that Gary followed us outside, and immediately he saw Raymond, his countenance changed. He tried to be calm and exchanged greetings with Raymond in a polite manner. He immediately turned his back on us and entered the house. My phone started ringing, and the caller was no other person but my husband. I picked up the call, and what I heard was, "Denise, if you know I am your husband, come down from that car and come inside now." And after that, he hung up on me. Raymond, sensing my discomfort, asked if everything was okay. "I am sorry, Raymond. I am afraid we can't go anymore." "Why not?" Sonia asked, sounding disappointed. "Sweetheart, there is some work I need to get done. I just got a call from my boss." Raymond knowingly smiled and bade us goodbye as we alighted from the car. He knew Gary didn't like him much. When we finally got inside, Gary was all dressed in casual clothes. "I will take you guys to the beach." But Mom got a call from her boss. "She has work to do," replied Sonia. "How about we go to the beach first? And when we return, I will join Mom in her work." "That will be awesome, Dad." "Mom, what do you think?" "That sounds great," I said, looking at Sonia, intentionally avoiding Gary. We went out to the beach and had a beautiful time together. Gary tried holding my hands at the beach, and I skillfully removed my hands. I thought it was what I wanted, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive him so quickly. He went too far with everything. I wasn't going to make it easy for him. He insisted on dropping me and picking me up from the office from that day onwards. Things were getting better, and we were no longer doing paper and text message communication. One night, I was deep in my sleep when I felt a hand resting on my hips, caressing all parts of my body. Gary was hungrily kissing my body. I was about to cave in when I remembered all that he made me pass through. "Gary, please, I really need to sleep." "I am tired," I said, gently removing his hands from my body. "Baby, please, I have missed you." I could feel his whole body was on fire. I smiled within, just seeing how the table turned on him. I felt pity for him. Plus, my body was yearning for his touch. Nevertheless, I insisted that I was tired and needed to sleep. Gary wasn't the type to force himself on his lady, so he left me in peace. Throughout the night, neither of us slept. We were both tossing and rolling on the bed. The next morning, I got Sonia and baby Gary ready. I dressed in a blue, breathtaking gown. The dress accentuated my curves and exposed some parts of my shoulders, and my jacket was on the bed. I was wrapping up my makeup when Gary gently came up to me. "Denise, where are you going?" "Office, of course," I replied in a tone that suggested the question was rhetorical. "But why are you wearing this gown?" "We have dinner in the office later today, and I don't want to change clothes for that. So I will just wear a jacket on it," I replied. "Why am I just knowing?" I shrugged my shoulders and answered, "I didn't want to bother you with that." "Seriously, instead of telling me what transpired between you and my sister, you have resulted in playing games with me. You won't be attending that dinner party today. I want you home by 4 p.m., he told me with a mock, serious look. "Why can't I attend?" I asked in irritation. "Because I said so," he said and walked away. You know that stinging disappointment you get when you are told you can't attend the party, organized and planned as the head of the organizing committee in the office. I walked quickly to catch up with Gary before he met up with the kids. "Gary, please, I need to be there. I am the one in charge. I am sorry I should have informed you earlier. I have made up my mind on it," he said this time firmly. "Why are you treating me like this? If this is about last night, come out plainly and stop punishing me with something like this," I replied in a raised, frustrated tone. "Do you want the kids to hear you shouting? Leave me alone. I am going to that party. I am not your child. I don't need your consent." "Is it because of Raymond? What is wrong with you? Since when did you start doubting me?" I couldn't believe my ears. "Since the day you brought him to my house," he replied, looking seriously at me. "He just came to help us. That was harmless." "Gary, you know I am not like that." "I don't know what to believe anymore," he said calmly. This time, I blamed myself. Maybe I went too far with the game. "You don't trust me, Gary." This time, teardrops were falling down my eyes. "Wipe your tears. We are running late. Remember, you must be back to this house by 4 p.m., he said and descended downstairs. I cursed Ruth under my breath. My home was heaven on earth, but she was the devil herself. I dried my eyes, and we got into the car and drove off. I tried to put up a happy countenance for the kids. Gary kept the conversation going with Sonia, and once in a while I tried to contribute. When we dropped the kids off, we drove to the office. We were silent throughout the drive. As we approached the office, Gary used his finger to trace the buttons of my gown and told me in a whisper, "Button your gown. Your cleavage is exposed." "Are they not meant to be for me alone, dear wifey?" I hurriedly got my stuff and left the car, for Gary was hell-bent on frustrating me, as if the angels were against me. When Gary was trying to remind me to get home on time, Raymond came out of the gate with my other colleagues. I just said a brief hello and walked past them because I knew Gary was keenly watching. He got down from his car to say hello to all of them. Throughout that day in the office, I wasn't really myself, but I maintained a cheerful appearance. I was caught in between staying for the party or going home. I made up my mind at the last minute, and my boss was surprised when I told him I won't be staying for the party. He tried to convince me. Seeing that my mind was made up, he gave up. I handed my speech to Monica, my assistant, and sneaked out of the office. I was avoiding my colleagues and questions from them. I met Gary waiting outside for me and hopped into the car. "Good evening," I greeted him. "Good evening, wifey," he replied. "How was your day today?" he asked. My first impulse was to ignore him, so I kicked against it. I wasn't going to give him the thrill of seeing me angry. I smiled in my warmest smile and replied, "It was great, and yours?" "Fine," he replied with uncertainty in his eyes. He was surprised to see me in a good mood, I guess. We picked the kids from school, and I got home and made a great meal of fufu and okra soup. I brought out cake and oranges for dessert. I served the table, and Sonia was grinning from ears to ears at the sight of cake. Gary was eating and staring at me all through the meal, confusion written in his face. After the meal, we saw a family-friendly movie, and we all had a good time. After breastfeeding the baby and tucking Sonia to bed, I took a shower and laid in bed reading a novel. Gary sat beside me, looking at me for a while. "What? Are you okay?" I asked. "I am sorry, baby, for everything. I can't continue like this anymore. I don't care about what happened between you and my sister any longer. I just want things to go back to the way it was, and even better," he said, holding my hands. "What happened to you? Did you dream or something?" I asked, raising my eyebrows. "No, my dear. Even when I was testing your patience today, you made me look like a fool with your calmness and maturity. You have been there for us. I mean, see the way you take care of Sonia? No one would even know that she is not your biological daughter. I love you, Den." I couldn't help the tears streaming down my face. I knew you would be mad at me for wanting Ruth out, but I never expected it to last this long. Trust me, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you. I am sorry too. I love you, Gary. He kissed me hungrily like a starved lion. I returned his kiss, and after a while, I paused and searched his soul through his eyes. "Baby," he asked, "tell me the truth. Did you sleep with anyone?" Deep within me, my heart was racing. "No, not in the world will I cheat on you," he answered, taking my question as a ridiculous one. I heaved a sigh of relief. "Then all those nights you came home late, what were you up to, my dear?" "I was just buried in research and office work. I love you so much, Den, that I won't do such to you." "Come here, baby," I said and crawled up to him, and the rest was a history of passion. My house became a home, and every day, I discovered a new romantic side of Gary. He treated me like a queen, and my love for him grew. One Friday evening, we were all relaxing after dinner, when Gary received a call stating that Ruth was hospitalized. After dropping the children with my parents, we all rushed to the hospital and found Ruth in a critical condition. She had a heart attack. Even in her feeble state, she held my hands. She pleaded with me to forgive her, and told Gary to plead with me on her behalf. "What happened? Is everything okay?" Gary asked fearfully. Denise overheard me on the phone telling my friend that I was going to poison her slowly and make sure she dies during labor. "Like I did too, Abigail," Ruth confessed in tears. "What?" Gary exclaimed in disbelief, unable to believe his ears. "I am sorry, brother. I killed Abigail. I was jealous. I wanted to be the only woman in your life. I felt entitled to you because I trained you. I poisoned Abigail slowly, a month to her due date. It was easy to get away with it, because everyone assumed that it was a complication during labor. I also acted very nicely towards the women you introduced to me, that it was difficult to trace anything to me." Gary was shocked. He couldn't breathe. Suddenly, the air around him became stale. He slowly walked out of the hospital ward and sat outside. I followed him closely and sat beside him. Neither of us said anything. I knew he was hurt and needed time to process everything. After a long moment of silence, Gary spoke. His eyes wet with tears he tried to hold. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked calmly. "I didn't want you to hate the only sister that you have," I responded, holding his hands. "Let's go home," he said, through his pain and unshed tears. I understand how betrayed he felt. I decided to drive us home. I called my parents, and they agreed to babysit my kids for the entire night. When we got home, Gary sat down and broke down in tears. I tried consoling him to no avail. My parents will probably be turning in their graves. I should have known. I was so blind. I trusted her with every fiber in me. She made Sonia motherless. And she was going to take the love of my life away from me again. That means Sonia was not even safe with my own sister, he said. How could you keep something like that from me? He asked. You put yourself in my shoes. If I had told you then, would you have believed me? Moreover, I had no evidence to support my claim. And you bore the brunt of the problem, trying to protect my evil sister, he said. She meant everything to you, I replied. I am so sorry for the way I treated you, baby. Please forgive me, Gary said, almost in tears. Again, I forgave you a long time ago. I would do anything to protect my only sister, too, if I had one. Denise, you are a good woman. You are a rare gem, he said to me. Ruth must pay for her actions, Gary said vehemently. Baby, she is already paying for her sins. She was in a very bad shape tonight, I replied. I don't care. She will face the law, Gary insisted. It took me a week to beg and convince Gary to visit his sister. It was okay not to forgive her right away. I was never one to preach for immediate forgiveness. Forgiveness sometimes takes time, and it is okay. We both visited Ruth. She pleaded and pleaded. I forgave her. It took Gary another week before he forgave her. 2 days after Ruth passed, I felt pity for my husband. My parents and I stood beside him all through the moment of mourning and the burial ceremony of Ruth. I knew what Ruth did was evil, but I never wanted her to die. I wanted God to give her a second chance. My parents, the kids, and I became Jerry's family. Our bond became tighter. My father was always happy to have Gary around because he became the son that he never had. Several months after the burial ceremony of Ruth, Gary and I were in bed and in each other's arms when he said, I have been keeping a secret from you about the late nights I was keeping. Those months that I was mad at you about Ruth not knowing that I was wrong. Really, if you cheated, please don't tell me. It is better I don't know, I said. Come on, believe me when I say, I never cheated on you. I was working on a research study. I discovered a drug that can completely cure cancer. The drug has been approved by FDA and NAFDAC. Pharmaceutical companies have started producing it, and we get 30% from whatever they make. Oh my God, that is so huge. I don't know what to say. I couldn't help but kiss his lips. Here I was thinking that you were cheating on me. I cheated on you with my research discovery, he replied, smiling at me. I was invited for a conference in the White House, and we will all be going next month. We will take it as our vacation. All expenses have been paid. I love you, Gary. Sometimes we want things according to our time, but God's time is the best. We kissed passionately to the love in our family. Am I the only one who feels like having a warm bath? He asked teasingly. Without waiting for my response, he carried me to the bathroom, and the rest became history.
Step into the light, feel the stories glow. All lantern ignite, where the tales will flow. Whispers of the night, under moonlit skies. Every word so bright, in your minded eyes. Lantern light guides you through the night.